Joan Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Waiting to be profiled is writer, photographer Janet Sternburg and chef Cindy Mushet. Photographer, poet, writer Janet Sternburg was born in Boston, lived in New York for several years, and now lives in Los Angeles. Her poems and essays have been widely published, and she's won awards for her producing and directing. Currently, Janet teaches writing at CalArts, California Institute of the Arts. And in addition to all of these accomplishments, Janet shows her photographs at the Skidmore Contemporary Art Gallery in Malibu. Before your photos, let's talk about this book, The Writer and Her Work. It was first published in 1980.
It is true.
And then republished in 2000.
Well, it was always in print, which in itself is thrilling. And then the 20th anniversary edition is a kind of celebration of that fact, of its longevity, but why it has been in print for so long, I think, is very particular. It is because this book started because I needed to read it. No other book of its kind existed, which sounds a little almost grandiose, actually, but it happens to be true.
How did you pick the writers? You went from the journey from the beginning, wanting to read it, obviously, I hear now, to the end of actually putting it together and picking the writers. How did you do that?
Well, you have to put yourself in 1980. At that time, I was directing something called Writers in Performance at the Manhattan Theater Club, and that put me in contact with a lot of writers who were up and coming, like Alice Walker, like Maxine Hong Kingston. In other words, people who were not then household names. They are now people I believed in and who I felt had something to say specifically on the subject of what it means to be a woman who writes.
Were they writing plays then? Is that how you knew them?
No, the series Writers in Performance was a literary series.
I see.
Yes, and I programmed that.
I see.
And read everybody at that point in my life, perhaps a little less so now, but then I thought, if I loved somebody's work, and if that person to me represented a diversity of experience, a breadth of experience, and wanted to write something which I felt was in her, just waiting to be written and not been asked before. Then I asked that person, worked with that person as an editor, and got work that lasted, because it was all a new thing then.
It lasted, but how did it lasted? Because you said for the last 20 years it's been in print. Does it hold up now? Would you put new people in this series?
Well, there are two answers to that. One is that I did a second volume of The Writer on Her Work in 1991, and I did it not because I wanted to keep a series going, but because I felt there'd been a shift. This book is writers from North America. And in 1980, that's really where the passion and excitement was in women who write. The Writer on Her Work, Volume 2, is writers from all over the world.
Just give me one reason why it's so important. Why is this such an important book? It's almost a classic.
It is, thank you. I'm thrilled to feel that way.
I did read it. I read it. I was reading and I kept saying, well, this is the same as it was before. These are ideas and emotions from women.
Can I give you two answers
to
why I think it lasted for so long? One, I think, is in Julia Alvarez's preface, which is new to the new edition, in which she says, what the book meant to her. And then she says, but is it just a sentimental exercise now? And then she answers, no, because the condition it addresses is still with us. And she proceeds to talk about that in terms of women in the third world, a woman anywhere who has not yet had full expressive power. So that's one reason. The second reason is, to my mind, more interesting, because I'm just done with it. I wrote an essay, just finished it a few days ago, for the Women's Review of Books, and I started thinking about the last 20 years, and I got bored. I thought, what I need to do is ask young women in their mid-20s what they thought was or was not of interest in the book. They gave me wonderful answers, and I'll tell you one because it answers your question, although there are others as well. One of them said, you had such a romance with your work. And I thought, that's funny. I don't think of us as romantics in the sense of being sentimental or anything like that. And then I realized she meant the idealism and the passion.
That's very interesting, because that I felt too while reading that. There is an idealism. Do you think that's lacking today?
Well, that's what she said. She said, you know, we're all in so many pieces now. There's a teenage market, there's a mainstream market. She said, we want to be reminded, we need to be, as creative women, all of these were women who either wrote or photographed, or present tense, right, or, and we need to feel a time that was different, a time that was more whole, a time that had this idealism, because it gives us a reason to keep writing.
Yeah, that's exactly.
You know?
And you talk about the romanticism. The romanticism then takes me into your photographs, because they do have a romantic bent to them. They're very kind of ephemeral. It's like you can't touch these. Your photographs are on the set now. Did that come out of the book?
No, no. Lovely thought, although to the extent that you're making the connection between idealism of sorts, I think that's probably always there, just in the way that I see the world. But these came about one week. I was in Mexico. This is fairly recent, 2 years ago. And I was, at that point, so immersed in the past, because I had just finished writing a book that had to do with memories. And I felt I could not see what was in front of me. And I picked up my camera. We have a home in Mexico. We love Mexico deeply. And I went for a walk. And I just looked in this very suspended way, the way a poet looks, actually. I think that's the connection, not trying to see anything. And what I discovered was, when I looked in the windows of shops, things for sale, I found two things that interested me. One was unusual objects that were for sale, but also were more intimate, perhaps weren't for sale.
Maybe this.
Well, perhaps let's look at that
this one is more of what you're talking about?
Well, I think that one is perhaps a better thing to tell you about what it is that I saw when I looked. Because, first of all, there is an odd grouping of objects, but more importantly, I suddenly realized that there were things in the street happening behind me, and that they were reflected in this single pane. And so what happens is that outside and inside becomes blurred. You don't quite know what's solid, what isn't.
Like this we can see.
Oh, perfect, yes. Well, what's happening there, and I don't know if this is going to show to its full advantage, but I am waiting. And I should tell you that I work by choice with throwaway cameras, whatever I can find, and I then blow this up to 30 inches by 40 inches. But the reason that a disposable is so terrific is that I can stand in front of a window and wait And people think I'm just window shopping. But in fact, I am waiting, as I am in that picture, I'm waiting for the lights to fall in a certain way on those objects. And I was waiting for the car, the truck that was behind me, to open up, and as it opened up, I realized they were moving out a mattress. That's what you see in the center of that picture.
I see the mattress.
So,
I see. So that isn't the window. There's somebody carrying it. It's the reflection behind it.
Absolutely.
So your things are about what's going on behind the photographer as well as what's going on in front.
Absolutely. And I wait until there's a moment when the two come together, both in terms of the right composition, and when there's the stuff that's going on behind in the street has a little, it's a narrative of sorts.
I see.
And I wait until it's the right one.
But then you don't need all this camera equipment?
I know
need
that's
a lot of camera equipment?
I know. Although I must tell you that at first, because when you blow them up large with this, they're not perfect focus. And my husband said to me, gee, I like sharp focus. And I said, well, you know, there's sharp focus, and there's fuzzy focus, and then there's Janet focus. And this is what I am working with. I am working with a kind of image that is large and soft in its edges, and the layers of time that exist at any single moment is what I want.
I can see that in this picture because the objects are old. They're that mirrored kind of glass from another era. And I don't see what you're waiting for, but maybe when we get it on the screen here, you can show us what came behind you.
Again, this is probably something that is better seen in its real state, but first of all, I was fascinated by getting back my 1 hour photograph from Mexico, in Mexico, and seeing what has happened, what I wanted to happen, which is this dissolving to light. It's almost as though solid objects become unreal.
I see. So you can see that in there.
Yes, I hope you can. And then what I hope you can see as well is that all the way through, oh wonderful, all the way through, there are images of the street behind reflected, actually reflected in these different bottles. So there's, that's a piece of the street, that's a different piece of it. So it becomes a little cubist.
Walk me through that. You start with your throwaway camera and you have them, this little tiny print that I'm holding.
That's the beginning, yes.
And where did this, did you take it into a dark room and print it?
No, the next thing that I do is I look so carefully at every inch of it with a little photographer's loupe, because I don't know whether I'm going to want to do anything with it until I really see what's in there. Then lately I've been doing something else, and that is simply bringing my little 1 inch in to my little 1 hour
this is
one.
The one
in.
So this was done at the 1 hour photo. Okay.
Then I think that one's interesting, and then when I come back to the States, I bring it into my local store and I have it scanned.
Yes.
That's the scan.
This is the next one.
Yep. And there I can really start to see really what I've got. You know.
I see. So this gets a little larger.
A little larger. Then I have gone in recent times to what we're looking at right here.
This size.
Which is 16 by 20. But for the show at Skidmore Contemporary Art, I thought, I want to be very bold about this. They're 30 by 40.
So we've got.
That is, they are big. And in fact, one of them is actually essentially 5 feet by 4 feet.
That's really big.
That's really big.
Really big.
It was a big wall, and I wanted to have this on the wall. The other thing that was very nice is it was almost an accident in the darkroom, and I worked with a master printer. I don't have those skills, but what I do know is I want this color brought up, those kinds of
so
things.
So you did manipulate it in certain ways from what you wanted.
The way any printer would, but this
Right.
is, sometimes people say, is it a double exposure?
Right.
Or is it a superimposition?
Right. Exactly.
One image, one click, that is all that it is. And what I'm just trying to do is bring out its inherent beauty of color. And it turned out there was a mistake in the darkroom, and there was a little kind of shadow all around the image, as if it were, just like an echo of it. And I decided it looked so beautiful that I kept that. So they're really these enormous things, and they don't have that harsh edge that photographs have.
And that's it.
That's it.
And we ended on a big note because you're talking about your big paintings.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Janet.
Oh, what a pleasure,
Thank
Joan.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Don't go away. We'll be right back with our baker. We're smelling the wonderful food that she's baked, Cindy Mushet. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome back. Cindy Mushet was born and raised in Glendale, California. She graduated from UCLA with a degree in anthropology, and she grew up in a big family, which made them the perfect audience for her baking, or maybe the perfect guinea pigs for her baking. You started with a job in a bakery at age 15,
Yes.
which makes me think you always wanted to be a baker.
I've always loved food, and it's been an essential part of my family. Food, love, family around the table, and I think it was natural that I fell into it that way.
But you basically became a chef of desserts. Why
Yes.
not entrees if you love food so much?
I love dessert. I like the way it smells when I make it.
We can
I like the
smell
way
it.
it tastes when I eat it. I love that no one can resist it, that it always makes people happy. And I like, in a restaurant atmosphere, it's nice to go in the morning and smell chocolate rather than fish at 7 o'clock in the morning.
That's true.
And what you go home smelling like at the end of the day. I smell like butter and sugar and chocolate, and they smell like fish and onions. And
That's very interesting. It's very sweet, too, isn't it? The other thing, after college, you didn't learn, you majored in anthropology, which
Yes.
maybe tells you a little bit about cooking and what people want to eat, etc. But then where'd you go to school?
well, I went up to San Francisco to a small private school up there called Tante Marie's. There were only 12 students of us every day. And we cooked all day long and had the best chefs in the city teaching us. It was a wonderful experience. Really exposed me to a wide variety of foods, a wide variety of talents.
And then when you finished there, did you go to work in San Francisco?
I did. I did an apprenticeship at Chez Panisse in Berkeley.
So that was very top
Which
of the
was,
line.
yes, completely, yes. It changed the way I think about food, and I think that everyone who goes there says that sort of thing about the experience, but it is truly life-changing, the whole way that people deal with food there and the way they treat food and look at food and respect food. And then from there I went on to several other restaurants in the Bay Area, also very small, high-quality, beautiful organic produce.
But were you cooking with produce? Were you doing regular chef work, or were you just doing desserts?
At Chez Panisse, I was apprenticing actually with food as opposed to desserts.
I see.
And that was a very good experience, although it also helped me decide that what I really wanted to do was desserts. I was always sort of looking over at the bakers saying, oh, what are they doing over there? I want to do that. So I knew then that I would go into desserts.
And then you came to Los Angeles, and you went to a lot of good restaurants here. And as a baker, do you stay on the premises all day, or do you bake off and bring in?
Oh, no, you stay on the premises all day. Longer than you ever dreamed you would stay on the premises.
Is that right?
Yes, they're very long days. And they're good days. They're exciting days. There's never a dull moment, which is one of the reasons why I love the restaurant business.
Where did you work in Los Angeles?
I started at Angeli, And at the time, they had 4 restaurants, and then I was with them when they opened their 5th in Beverly Hills, and I was doing the baking for all the restaurants.
Oh, so you baked in one central kitchen?
Yes, we had one kitchen, and then we would send the things out by car every day to the different restaurants. They would send their orders in. And then I took a little time off, and then I ended up at I Cugini in Santa Monica, which was also Italian, and where they also gave me creative freedom to do whatever desserts I wanted. A very supportive place to work there as well.
And then, in the meantime, I think you were writing a journal, or you had a journal
Yes.
published. What was that all about? I mean, every day you went home and wrote about your desserts?
No, but what I did was, it felt like it though. What I did was I decided that I would publish a monthly publication. I loved getting newsletters. I would always buy them. And some people call them journals, and some people call them food letters. And I always called mine a journal. And it was very personal. And what I did was I started out every month, and then I was working 10 hours a day and trying to write at night. I realized that I would go bi-monthly. But it was 12 pages, and it was all about desserts. And it had subscribers across the country. I wrote it all.
How did you get your subscribers?
Well, I was lucky when I started the newsletter. A couple of people got a hold of it. The LA Times put a little note in its food section, and also the King Arthur's Baker's Catalog put it in their Baker's Catalog, and from there it took off.
And so then you were publishing this newsletter
Yes.
just about baked goods?
Yes.
Was there any kind of gossip in it, or was it
No.
just food?
It was just food.
Was it recipes? Or?
It was recipes. What I would do is each month I would take a topic. Say, some months it was produce. I would talk about lemons and the history of lemons. And then I would do lemon recipes. There was always a bread in it. There was always a breakfast item in it that was baked. Or sometimes it would be another topic, like your neighborhood bakery. What is a great neighborhood bakery, and how do you find them, and where are they? And here's some great recipes from neighborhood bakeries.
All across the country? How did you research all of this?
Oh, I didn't do bakeries across the country. I did a couple of favorites here.
I see.
And then readers would send in their favorites, and we would talk about them.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, that led to desserts. Desserts, Mediterranean flavors, and
California style.
California style, published by Scribner.
Yes, yes.
Which is right next to you.
Yes, thank you.
And it's filled with recipes. Great recipes.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. This is the kind of food I've been doing for years. I've been working in Italian and Mediterranean restaurants, always looking to make desserts that satisfied what Americans wanted, which is different from what Europeans want, which Italians or French or Middle Eastern or whoever you're talking about in the Mediterranean. We do have slightly different tastes here. And so what I would do is take all the flavors that are essential to that area of the world and sort of blend them and make them a little more American, a little more to the American palate.
So that's the California style
That's the
involved.
California style.
Well, how does a person decide what to put in a cookbook? Because there are hundreds of cookbooks.
There are. And I think that in the end it turns out to be a very personal collection. And what I did was I chose the recipes that over the year I thought reflected best this type of dessert and that I liked best. And so this is my first book, and it is a very personal collection of the ones I like best.
So this is your first cookbook.
Yes.
So you got to put everything in it that
Yes,
you liked.
yes.
And did you change a lot of the recipes?
I did, because as I started making them and having friends taste them and having family taste them, I realized that some recipes are best left in the restaurant. I mean, if you're taking this book into your home kitchen, I want people at home to enjoy baking and to have fun baking and to feel like they can do this. And sometimes what you get in restaurants, while it's wonderful, it's very difficult to replicate at home. So I've tried to change the recipes to make them more accessible to the home cook.
I think to me, that's the difference in baking and in just cooking an entree, because you don't have to be so precise when you're cooking, say, baking this. I'm going to hold it, which is absolutely breathtakingly delicious, just what you said, you want to smell good. You have to be really precise. You can't just throw in a little extra flour or whatever you put in here.
You do, that's true. In baking, you can't taste as you go along most of the time.
You're not creative, really.
Well, you are very creative, but it's created with a very limited amount of ingredients.
Tell us what this is, and then
this is
tell
a
us.
chocolate hazelnut torte with some orange zest in it. And the idea for this was, I love gianduja, which is an Italian combination of chocolate and hazelnuts. I love that. And I thought, wouldn't it be great to do a cake like that? And this is actually based on a recipe of a friend of mine's who worked in Italy.
Okay.
And it's very moist and delicious.
And we have this.
And these are very American biscotti. They are the biscotti style, but what they are is double chocolate biscotti, chocolate chips and cocoa with toffee. So they're filled with toffee chips as well, which you would never find in Italy, but which are utterly
something that you so
irresistible.
You are creative in a lot of ways.
Yes.
I'm going to hold this cookie. Well, I guess I could hold this whole thing up.
And these are almond macaroons with hazelnut chips. Very chewy, very dense. They're not the delicate, elegant macaroons that you might find in a French bakery. They're big, rustic, chewy.
So do you think that's more of the California?
I do.
Like we like something strong?
I think we like our taste bold and exciting. I think we like our presentation natural, which reflects the way we live here. You know, we're very in tune with nature here.
One more thing. Oh, let's see if I can get this lean across. Tell me about this.
This is a Sienna
gorgeous.
tart. This is a Sienna tart based on a famous confection from Sienna called Panforte. And they do a candy there, but what I've done is turn it into a tart. It's got almonds and cherries and spices and honey.
Can I taste this?
And a little bit, please do. A little bit of orange, a little bit of lemon.
I can taste the lemon. Delicious. Now, how could these are all from your desserts
Yes.
cookbook, Mediterranean style. I'm still eating. And can any of us make these?
Absolutely.
What are the easy things in there? You have easy little notes, it says.
Yes, I have a lot of sections in there that talk to people about the ingredients, how they can choose ingredients without worrying about whether they're choosing the right one. And the recipes I've explained in great detail so that if you're not a regular baker, you can still have good success with these recipes. I lead you by the hand through the entire recipe.
That's what you need to do.
Yes.
Because as you say, you have to be precise on certain things. Like, is there a process where you start with the nuts first? Or
Yes, you want to toast some nuts, you want to warm the honey with the orange and the lemon in it so that the honey becomes flavored with the orange and lemon. You want to toss everything with the spices and the honey, and then you pour it in the tart, and that's basically the tart. It's really quite quick and easy once you have the tart shell made.
Woo, we've got it. We've got it. We're going to close this session right now so we can eat your dessert.
Great.
Cindy Mushet, thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
And we should really, I'm going to read this book tonight in my bed.
That's the best place.
And dream about it. Thanks for being with us today on the Joan Quinn Profiles. Keep writing to us at 777 South Figueroa, 44th floor. And we'll see you next time on the Joan Quinn Profiles.